Ciao Blender artists! We are almost at the end of this beginner-friendly journey tutorial where we will model a 3D chair. We have our model, we smoothed it, and today it's time to texture it. So let's jump in. There are different ways to add colors. Now we are going to speak to the simple one, about the simple one that simply create a material and assign to one or more faces of our model. So again, I open the image editor and I have the image I had in the image editor last time. Then I need to move to the viewport shading because I need to see what I am doing, so the colors. So what I notice is that most of the elements are black. So we can start selecting one element, going into the material properties, but we actually need to see the node editor for the material. So I drag this window to open a new one, or I can actually go into shading mode. I am an old style Blender artist and I prefer to use the node editor in the same window. We can again create our windows the way we want, so I am gonna change this one into shader editor. I press N to close the sidebar and I create a new material. I am going to call this black. When you create a new material, you will have a principal BSDF node attached to the material output. Now, nodes can look a little bit scary at the beginning, but they become a lot useful and a lot flexible once you understand the methodology that's behind them. So the principal BDSF controls every aspect of your material. So it controls from the color to the metallic, so if the material is a metal, roughness, so how much the material reflects what's around it, up to more advanced features like alpha, the transparency, or transmission, that's basically how much the material allows the light to pass through, and to even more advanced parts like normal maps that allows you to deform or fake a deformation on your model. So basically, if you have a surface like a stone wall, you don't really have to model every single stone, but you can fake them using a map. In this case, we go really simple and we start creating a black material. So into the base color, we make this black. I wouldn't go completely black. I would leave a little bit of play, and yeah, we created the material. This one is slightly more reflective, so I would probably decrease the roughness, because roughness means how much reflectiveness you take out from this material. So I will go to 0.3 for this one. Now at the moment it doesn't reflect anything, so we need to make sure to have something to reflect, because the only thing that it reflects is the color of the word, that is this gray color. So we stop 1 second with this material to set up the environment. That's going to be also a kind of lighting for us. We go into the world properties, and under color we add an environment texture. Now you have to notice that what you do in this panel is reflected in this one, or better, into the world visualization of the shader editor, because at the moment we are acting on the material of this object. So if we go into Word, in this case we will act on the material assigned to the Word. So what I'm going to do now is setting up an HDR image to have something that's going to be reflected on our chair. To do that, I simply open the environment node, and I search for an HDR image that I saved on my computer. So I am going to position my chair into a small hanger. You don't really notice anything at this point because sometimes I need to read as well. Viewport shading, you will just see the material, but you will not see how much it reflects or what it does reflect. In order to see what you are gonna render, you need to enter into the render view. So you press render view, and yes, as you can see, I have my hanger. I press Ctrl spacebar to maximize the window and to show the chair in his entire view. So as you can see, the HDR image will lit our scene and will act as a background image. So for now it is fine because we don't really need to use any additional lights. We go back to the full Windows visualization, pressing again Control spacebar, that toggles between these two modes, and I think that the setup for the background is more or less ready. We can work a little bit more on that in a later moment. So what I'm gonna do now is selecting this material and adding to all the parts of our chair that have the same color. So again, I can go into the material preview. I select, so I press Shift and right click on all those parts that are black, simply everything but where you sit and the back. And then last, I select this, that's the active element. I press Ctrl L, and in this case I make link with the materials. So this means that all these elements will use the same material. The other thing that we need to do is setting up these yellow parts. So we can select simply this front part. If we go into the material tab, we see that we have one material here, but we can add more than one material to an object. So we can, for example, duplicate the material, or so we go back to the object material. That's something that we can do now. So I simply add a new material slot. Then this black material is set up globally. It means that this material can be used on multiple objects, and it can be used twice on the same object. So I find this material and I add it again. In here you can see that the material has been used 10 times in this project. If I alter the color of this material, for example, if I make it white, it changes the color of all the elements that have this material applied. So what I'm gonna do, I press on this 10 to create a new copy of this one. Now if I alter this black material, the other parts will not be altered. But for now, the material that's assigned to the whole parts, to the whole mesh, is this one. So this one is going to be yellow, so we call it yellow. Now, if I change the color of this one, you will not notice anything because the first material is the one that takes the precedence. We need to make sure that we assign this material to the part we want to work on. Actually, I made a typo. Yellow. To do that, we enter into edit mode, then face mode. We select the faces that we want to be colored in this material. We select the material and we click assign. So now the front and the back face and the one in the mirror will have this yellow material. Now in Blender you can actually you can select this closer. You can select this eyedropper and you can pick any color, included the ones in images outside. So I will take the same yellow and voila, the yellow is applied to the front and the back. Now all we have to do is repeating this procedure for the other elements. So I select top, bottom, I add a new slot, and in this case I select the yellow material and then I assign. I do the same for these. Yellow, edit mode, edit mode. In this case we don't really have to select this part because, as you remember, this part is the mirror of the front, so we simply select one of them, yellow, assign, and we can see the yellow in here as well. Then we go back, we select this part, edit mode, new material, yellow, assign, this one. Another thing that you will notice is that when you work on this kind of projects, you will find different ways to do stuff. For example, these elements are all the same, so instead of copying them, I could have cloned them. So next time I will think about. So edit mode, and again yellow. For the top, probably the bottom part of this one can have this yellow material assigned just because probably the top one doesn't have a color in the original chair, but the bottom one has for sure this yellow. We assign it, and then we have the last part, that's this one. So yellow, and then we enter into edit mode, we select this one, and the top part doesn't really touch anything, so actually in this case the bottom part touches the floor, but yeah, out of precision we do the same. And the last part that we need to alter, yes, is yellow, is this one. So we select this, and again is already mirrored in the center, so we simply have to assign the material here. And the chair is already taking a little bit of form. Now we will work on the top and on the back and the part where you sit. I will make a lot of mistakes because English is not my first language and I have to concentrate on two things, but bear with me. So we add a new material and we assign one of the two, can be the black one. Again, this one should not be black, but most of the features will be similar. So we know that this part is slightly more reflecting than the other, also in here. So this one seems made of wood, but for this tutorial that's quite beginner friendly, I would not add additional maps and colors. So we duplicate the material pressing on this stand, and we call this red. Then into the shader editor you will not notice too much difference, but at the moment we are using the red, and you can actually see if you scroll in here, because the material that you are using is the red one. So we can go again in here and you can pick one of the red. Can be this one, seems fine. I would like just to add a little bit of variation to make this slightly more reflective. So I make the roughness a little bit lower, like 0.15. And as you can see, it reflects a lot more of what's around. And finally, I am going to do the same with the bottom part. So for the bottom part, I take the red material that has the same reflectiveness, is applied to two meshes, but in this case I duplicate this and I make this blue. And I can pick the color. Now let's see if I can pick a blue part, because as you can see, this blue reflects a lot other colors. Probably the black is the best part. Yes, is it? Maybe, let's see if I can probably zoom in and take better blue, like this one can be. Yes, probably this one is better. And we have textured our chair. I always find texturing really relaxing, and I love how you can reuse textures that you created for different elements. In the next tutorial, we will speak on how to render the scene and how to deliver the final result. I'm waiting for you. Bye.